Hey everyone, this is Chris with Skuid. Super excited for today. We're going to be wrapping up the account hierarchy application. And in addition to finishing out some of the style requirements and getting our values in here for our KPI tiles, we're going to end by deploying it in Lightning too. So just showing you how easy that is to do with Skuid. So let's get started in good old Skuid Central. And if you hover over Compose and then go to All Pages, this will take us to our list of Skuid pages, and then you can just click the cogs or gears next to your page name. I've already got mine open for the app composer, so that's where that will take you. And where we left off last time, we've got some spacing to match our design in Figma that we need to implement, so there's nice spacing between the elements. And then we also need to build in the functionality of the values coming back for the KPI tiles, so the total number of child accounts and our pipeline, so our open opportunities, total amount, and then the number of cases as well. And then, like I mentioned, we'll finish by deploying this in Lightning. So first of all, one of the things I noticed, the hover state for add case is not helpful. Everything disappears. So we'll make a quick adjustment there. We'll then tackle our view cases button and fix this reference field to blend into the search accounts. Then we'll get into our spacing. So jumping over to the Design System Studio with the DSS, let's go to that Add Case button first of all. And if you click on that, and then over here on the right, if you scroll down all the way, let's open up Hover State. And we're going to change the background color to be 10% darker than our brand primary, which is our brand primary -1. Let's just check that preview out. That looks a lot better. All right. So now let's modify the utility default. This is what is the default of the reference field lookup right there. So let's make an adjustment to that, and we will be in business. So we're going to blend this in. It was gray 1 is the background, and the border, there is none. The border radius was 4 pixels. And our text color was our font color. And the font size, same, body is fine, font weight. Let's back that off to regular. And let's see, height of 40. All right, so let's save that. And because that's the default, let's just go ahead and check and see if that blended in as we expected. And because this is already looking at that variant, that hover state should come through as well. So let's see if we need to make any changes. Oh man, that looks awesome. Cool, so that blends right in. And add case, good, has its hover state. And because this was also looking at our default, this updated as well, basically to match this. And so we need to create a variant, like for a secondary variant, to have that view cases button match our design over here in Figma. So let's do that. So we'll add item, we'll call this secondary. This is a white background. It has a border color was our light lavender or dark lavender, and border radius of 4, and font color is good, font size, body, that's no change, font weight regular, no change there, and height 40. Very nice. What's the hover state for this? That's good. Actually, the border just pops a little bit with a little bit of shadow. I like that. Let's go ahead and save. And because we created a net new variant, if you recall, we need to refresh our app composer to be able to access that new variant. So we'll do that really quickly. And now when we go to that view case button under styles property, we'll select secondary. Go ahead and save that and preview our page, and the view cases button should look a lot better. And it does. Awesome. Okay. So that looks great. Actually, the text color, the text color is brand primary. Let's fix that real quick. I like that purple. That actually looks really good to pop like that. So brand primary. Oh, that's much better. Okay. So now that we've got that in place, let's go and get the values for our KPI tiles. So the way that we're going to do this is back in the app composer then, Here's our wrappers with the titles, like KPI labels, and we are going to, let's just clone a text component, and we are going to use the same little trick where we have that function of the length here for our record. So it's double curly braces, $model, and then the model name, which for this one is child accounts, because we want to see the number of child accounts in this KPI. So .data.length, and then end that with the double curly braces. We have already created our style variant for this that we called KPI Content, so that's really easy to remember. And let's see, the last thing we need to check is this text component needs to have model context. And this is because when we select our account on the left from our list, we are then querying the child accounts and passing in that ID, so that we're only bringing back child accounts that look up to whatever parent we clicked on. And so we need to give this text component model context so that this length updates with whatever we've clicked on. If we don't do that, then this number is not going to be accurate as we click between different lists. It's just going to default to the first one in the list. So child accounts.data.length. This spelling of the model has to be verbatim and the same like title case as whatever you called your model. So let's go and check that real quick. Make sure everything is coming in as expected. Awesome, very cool. So that's 3. This should be 6. Beautiful. Okay. So now that we've got that, let's just clone that and pop this one over to cases, because cases is going to be very similar, except the model is child accounts underscore open cases. It's the name of that model. So open cases.data.length, and then we need to update this to reflect the correct model, which is child account open cases. Make sure that looks good. All right, we'll save. And because we cloned this and we'd already updated that style property, I don't need to do that again. So that's nice. We'll refresh this page. 2, perfect. So let's make sure, yep, there's 2 cases there. Awesome. So this is one of the really fun parts of building this app, is where we've got all of our style variants created and we're just going through and just making things look awesome. And it's really quick and easy because we've taken the time to build everything out in our design system. So the next piece, this is a really powerful functionality where we're going to use an aggregate model to do an aggregation on the opportunity amounts. So to do that, we'll need to add a model, and we're just going to call this pipeline ops. That'll work. Just looking at the opportunity object. And then there's a property down here, model behavior. We want to switch this from basic to aggregate. And so when we make that selection, we get some different options here under our model. So we have the ability to choose which fields we're going to aggregate. We just need amount. So we'll add that. And then the field properties, we can choose several different things. We're going to stick with some, but you can do a lot of different really cool, powerful aggregations here. And then we need to put some conditions on this, because we only want to be looking at the opportunities that are related to all the child accounts of the global account that we're looking at. So to do that, we're going to add a condition where we're saying opportunity records where account ID is field from another model, and we're going to say child accounts, and we're going to say the operator is in, because we want to bring back all the opportunities in all of the child accounts. And that condition is always going to be on. And then we're going to add one more, because we only want to see the value of our open ops. We don't want to see our closed ops for this one. So we're going to go back to that is closed Boolean and only bring back opportunity records where is closed is not true. All right, so from there, we can get a text component. We'll clone that again so we get our same style, so we don't have to update that. Drag it in there. We'll give it context to our pipeline ops model. And then we don't need that model, like $model.length, because we're actually just bringing in the value of a field, which means we can just do our double curly braces some amount, which is the name of our aggregation right there, so some amount. And we'll hit save, and we'll preview. Oh, and this actually won't return a value. I just recalled because we're not querying that in the context of each of these accounts. So if I hit Humboldt, yep, that's not changing. And so the reason that's not changing is because on page load, it's looking at that first record in the list. But when we update it, we need to add that model be queried again to return the updated values from our account viewer. So if you go into the list and then the interactions property for that list, and then models to query, pipeline ops. There we go. We'll save that, and now we'll get that value updating as we select different accounts. There we go. Awesome, super cool. However, this does not look super cool. That huge number. What we had from a design perspective was just sort of a friendlier view of that. So just 1 million, 15 million, 2 million, that kind of thing. So let's just update that. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to add a UI only field. So if you click on aggregations underneath your pipeline ops aggregate model, we'll add a UI only field, and we'll just call this sum friendly. And this is going to be a formula field, and we want it to return a number. And our formula is just going to be, we're going to take our sum amount field that's coming in, so double curly braces, and then we're just going to divide that by 1,000,000. Great. And so now, just to show you kind of what that's going to look like, we'll leave both in here. Sum friendly. Let's do a space dash space, save. And so we'll see that value divided down, and then, yeah, so 1.82. That's much better, easier to read, but we also want our $ in there, and we want that nice M for million, just to, again, match our design and make that a bit more of sort of an expected pattern. So the way that we can do that is Skuid in formula fields lets you do truthy falsy, which is really, really powerful. And so I'm actually going to paste this in for the sake of time, but we're going to do let's click in there. All right, so, let's grab we're going to do our $, and make sure I grab the right thing from my clipboard. We're going to do a $, because we want that to always be to the left of the number. And then from there, we're doing the truthy statement. So if sum friendly has a value, then do the sum friendly field and the letter M. That's our truthy statement. And then the falsy statement. So if sum friendly does not have a value, then just put the number 0. That's it. And that's the end of the falsy statement. We'll make sure we get our double curly brace there to close that out. So that will give us a better looking KPI, and it will ensure that if there are no opportunities there, we'll just get a 0 instead of just a single $. Okay, that actually looks really good. Nice. The one thing that I'm not liking is I feel like the KPI content is the text is a little too bold. So let's actually back that off a little bit. Seems a little bit lighter, but in the runtime, I'm not loving that. So real quick then, or not input text, sorry, text component, our KPI content right here. What is our weight? Regular. All right, let's back that off just a titch. So going back to variables and typography, let's find our font weight. So regular is 400. Let's add a 300. 300 is our label, and our font weight then is 300. Okay, so back to that text component, and let's just update our KPI content now to be our 300. I'm liking that already. So we'll save, and again, because we're updating a variant that those components are already looking to, all we need to do is just refresh our runtime, and that will have cascaded through. I like that a lot. That looks good. The reason this is not updating though is because we forgot to assign, let's see here. I think I pasted in the values with some formatting. So let's see if that is any better. So text, pipeline ops, styles, KPI content, save. Let's see what we've got here. I think our rich text editor. Okay, I'll look into that. But for now, let's keep moving, and we're going to work on getting the spacing elements of this page now. So for now, and because that's, let's just change this back to match, and I'll come back later. Let's see, regular, cool. It's just throwing me off. All right. So spacing. Now, this is where we'll actually be able to move really, really quickly here, because we went through, if you recall, and created all the different spacing variants that we need. So we have our 16 spacing, we've got our 45, we've got our distance between the chart as 20 pixels, all those kinds of things. So this will go really quickly now because those are all ready for us to use. So we'll start by pipeline to the KPI is 45, and then chart to pipeline is 20. So we'll jump in here. So this is our responsive grid, and we'll just bump that spacing to 45. And then the pipeline text to, the chart to the pipeline is 20 spacing at the top. 20, there we go. And actually, I want to put that chart in a wrapper. It's just going to be easier. I like using wrappers, and so let's back that off on the chart itself, and we'll just do that in the wrapper, and that way we can drag around things a little bit more easily. So make that 20 pixels. Okay, and then our pipeline to our KPIs was, let's see. Oh, that was the 45. The KPIs to this were 47. Okay, my bad. So pipeline here is 45, and then our responsive grid, which is the KPIs up to our account name, is the 47. Really nice to have those spacing units already in place. That's great. And then so we've got that. Okay, so then our child accounts up to our chart, we're just going to call that 40, and then Nautilus core, like our child account name, is 34. So we need a 40 and a 34. And 40 is actually the extra large. That's one of the default spaces that comes in. So we'll just select that. And then the wrapper, we created that wrapper with the top border right here. And we are going to use that to separate the child accounts. Just put a border kind of underneath that, or an underline. That's what it's going to look like to delineate between those two. And so this wrapper, just change our style variant to top border, and then we want the separation to be underneath that, so from the content up to that border, and that is going to be our, let's see, what did I say, 34. All right, so spacing on the deck, top spacing 34. Next, let's get the spacing between our tab set and the child account name, which is 21. And so tab set, styles, spacing, top, 21. All right, let's save that, and this should make a pretty drastic difference. This page should start to breathe a lot more. So we'll refresh our page, see what we're doing. Man, much better. So there's that wrapper with that top border, so that has a nice visual kind of distinction. Like that a lot. Very cool. All right, so the view cases, we just need to add some spacing in here, and we will do that quickly, and then we will get going with getting this in Lightning. So for view cases, actions, open sliding panel. Let's make sure we've got spacing. We've got top and bottom spacing. That's when our save cancel button renders. We'll have the spacing there. And then for our close button, let's add some bottom margin of reduced. And then for our deck, let's add some top spacing of reduced as well, which is the 12 pixels. All right, let's see how this looks. Okay, then view cases, nice. And if we change it, very cool. All right, Oh, let's change these buttons to be, they were defaulting, so we need to actually change them to look something like a primary and secondary. So let's do that real quickly. So let's make save styles. We'll do, we'll match it because we've got our styles already defined for those. And secondary, cool, just leave it there. Awesome. So now we've got the spacing spread out on the page. We've got our KPIs working and they're dynamic and look great. And now I want to, this bottom section, it'd be nice if we could kind of scroll in this area. And it'd also be nice if we could hide these charts as the end user. If, we don't need to see that, we just want to see the child account. So let's just quickly do that. So the way that we can have that scroll there is, first of all, let's set our top level wrapper to have a height of 100 VH, which is just the view height. And that makes sure that whenever we load this page, it's going to take up the whole screen, which will be nice. And then from there, we are going to put a max height on this child accounts wrapper, which is going to allow us to scroll. So select height scrolling for the wrapper underneath child accounts. Max height, we're going to give it custom, and we're going to say that this will get no bigger than 1,000 pixels. We can play with that if we need to, but I think that'll look good. And so now if we have a lot of child accounts in a record, this will allow that bottom section to scroll. So Humboldt has 6, that'll be a good example. So if we go down to our page, nice, that scrolls a little bit. And if we made that even smaller, let's just go 750. So it's really nice to be able to kind of make these changes and then immediately see kind of how those are going to impact the runtime. So let's scroll down. I like that a lot, actually, because then you can still scroll down. You can still see your list up here, but you can scroll that content. Very cool. All right, so then real fast, we'll just do that bonus, hide the chart. And the way that we're going to do that is we're just going to create a UI only model, because we don't need to do anything with the database for this. And we're just going to say UI display, and make sure the data source type is UI only. And then from here, we're going to add a field, and I'm just going to call this toggle chart. And we need a checkbox, and we're going to make the checkbox default to true because we want our chart to show on page load every single time for this. So we'll make that default to true, and then we will put a responsive grid component in right here. We'll add a couple divisions. We'll move our pipeline by stage over into this left side. We don't really want to change that location at all, but we want to be able to get our, actually it's going to be a form over here on the right. And this is where we're going to bring in our field that we just created, our UI only field of toggle chart. So we'll apply there. We don't need a section heading. And we want this to always be in edit mode so that they can, choose whether or not to show or hide the chart. So we'll put that in edit mode. And one of the things that Skuid lets you do with Booleans, we can choose to display it as a checkbox or a switch, which is really cool. And we're going to do a switch because that looks awesome. And from here, then we need a little text component that will say, let's just show hide chart, something simple for now. Okay. So now what we're going to do is the logic. So if they switch that, we need to hide the chart, and we should also hide pipeline by stage, actually, because then, that's the label for the chart, and that's not relevant if they're hiding it. So for the wrapper, let's do display logic on that. And then the render conditions are going to be based on a model field value in our UI display model. And the field is going to be our toggle chart. And we are going to say only show that when it's equal to true. And then we'll do the same logic for our pipeline by stage text component. So model field value, UI display is the model, toggle chart is equal to true. And let's see just how this looks and how that works. Cool. Okay, so that alignment is a little wonky. Let's fix that. So we've got a min width. Let's make this, if you put a 0 in the flex ratio, it switches to like a fit to content. And so that'll scoot those over on the right. I like that. Let's make this middle division. And keep this, just put that at the bottom. And we'll save that. And show hide chart. Okay, let's see how that looks. So this is nice too, just kind of being able to iterate a little bit on this. We don't have a pattern for this in Figma. We need to hide the label on that. And let's get a little separation in these columns. We'll do just reduced, and let's put a space in the custom label so that we don't have a label there. And we'll see how we're going now. So a little kind of designing on our own. That's good for now. Because that's in edit mode, we can hit this switch, and cool. That's actually working great. Very nice. I like that a lot. Cool. So let's go ahead and get this deployed in Lightning so we can see kind of the end result of all this. And so to do that, if you go into Salesforce Setup, we're going to go to our Lightning app builder. Open that up, and we're going to create a new app page. And yep, app page is great. Label, account hierarchy. Next, and we're going to do one region for this because we built this page to take that kind of that whole space. And from here then, what we've got is, because Skuid is a managed package, we appear here on the bottom left under the custom managed packages, and you just grab the Skuid page. This is a native Lightning component. Pop it up there. It will default to the last page that you were working on, which is perfect for us because that is the account hierarchy page. So there we go. Let's hit save. And we'll activate this. Your name for your app, account hierarchy. That's great. Yes. Cool. All right. So that should be good to go. Now let's actually open this back or open this up, and we'll see how this is looking in Lightning. Let's go to our app launcher, account hierarchy. Okay, so here is our Lightning, and we're bringing in our account hierarchy page. We've got our content all in here. Actually, I like this a lot. The one thing though that I'm not liking right now is that our background, I was doing this for a Lightning light background, but we've actually got that cool blue in the background. And oh, actually what we could do, so on the design system, let's go to the page properties. And if we make that transparent, this could actually look really, really cool. Where is page? Here we go. Whoops. Page. Okay. So we made that custom page background color, and let's scrap that for transparent. And let's save that. So because the page is transparent now, and we've got those wrapper cards that have white backgrounds, this should result in I think what could be a pretty cool design where that blue is coming through in the background, but we've got our white cards. And yes, that's awesome. I actually like that a lot. That looks really, really good. It feels very kind of native in that Lightning environment. That looks awesome. And then our functionality, I mean, nothing changes. That's how easy it is to deploy in Lightning. So our show hide chart, that all looks good. Let's go to something that has a case, view cases. Very cool. There's our save cancel. That looks a lot better as well with that. Awesome. Okay, so there we go. So that is the journey of kind of starting off with a really well done design. Again, shout out to our XDG team for putting this together in Figma, and then showing kind of how not only you build out the functionality really easily and declaratively with Skuid, and no custom code, but then using the DSS, you can take their thoughtful designs and border radiuses and colors and all those kinds of things, implement them without having to write any CSS, and then by being in the app composer, pointing those components to those style variants, you're able to, in a relatively quick period of time, deliver and match the style guidelines, and then deploying in Lightning is a breeze. Being native in Salesforce is very, very helpful with that. And then you can see our end result here is this really well designed page that we've got. I like actually the transparent a lot coming through with with those backgrounds. That's sweet. And full functionality, all of the things that we talked about in terms of needing to have as use cases, being able to iterate over all those child accounts, edit those opportunities, drill into our charts, being able to make changes there. And the other thing I want to emphasize too is that not only is this declarative, and if we need to make changes, you're able to move really quickly because you're reconfiguring, you're not having to recode, but we're using the standard account and case and opportunity objects. Skuid can do this type of account hierarchy view, but with any custom object as well. It doesn't just have to be the standard object. So when you think about potential use cases, this can be really powerful for all sorts of different things that you're wanting to look across in your particular orgs and businesses, where you need to be able to see lots of related records. We need to be able to see, maybe 3 or 4 layers down and surface all that in a single screen. All of that is possible, and Skuid doesn't care if it's standard or custom objects. You saw how we were using model conditions and our action framework to just dynamically bring all of that data together. So great work, really excited about this. It looks awesome, and that is kind of the beginning to end of how you'd go about taking a design, taking functionality requirements, building it out in Skuid, and then delivering and deploying it in Lightning. So thanks so much for participating in this. And we have copies of the XML as well as the design system for you all to import into your various orgs so that you can play with it as well. But yeah, thanks so much. This is a ton of fun, and we will talk to you all at some point later, I hope.